Creative Assembly announced finally their next Total War game, other than Medieval 3 that I'm very hyped about, and I'm intrigued to dive back into Medieval 2, maybe do an Third Age mod run playthrough. Let me know if that would be interesting. And also, now with Total War Warhammer, we're gonna have a look at the trailer. We're gonna talk about it afterwards. What do we see there? What kind of chapters are present? Theories and ideas. And of course, I invite you again to the talks and the conversation to drop down your thoughts, your conspiracy theories that will be how the mechanics will go, etc., etc. So let's buckle up. I'm gonna mute myself. Let's enjoy the trailer together.
In the grim darkness of the far future, every soul's survival hangs by a thread. Mankind is beset by endless tides of aliens, traitors, and demons. Across countless worlds, battles rage. Lead your armies. Conquer worlds. Fight on as the galaxy burns. For there is no peace amongst the stars. There is only war.
Total War Warhammer 40k. Okay, hold your horses over here right now. Good. Ooh, there's quite some stuff to see there. Okay. It looks like an RDS, not a Total War game, says Panavision straight up. I mean, when it comes to the combat itself, it is real-time strategy. When it comes to, you decide you battle, you click on battle, it loads in a battle map, and your RTS maneuvering your things around. Probably from the UI and whatnot, it might remind you a lot of casual exterminators in the background. It might remind you of Dawn of War 3 that is coming out, that is now falsely called Dawn of War 4 for whatever reasons. I don't know why. They just followed up in their series with Dawn of War 1, 2, and then 3. I don't know why they call it 4. What happened there? I don't know. But back to Total War. I'm curious how they will handle the squad units. I'm curious how we'll see, in terms of technology, it evolve. Creative Assembly launched and announced that they were reworking and repurposing their whole engine that they built the game on. So we're gonna get a lot of innovation. We're gonna see a lot of improvement in terms of performance. So I'm curious if they managed to give you control of small groups of chunks or break up a formation into own squads or maybe even entities like little one by one characters to move them around. Because, for example, if you play Space Marines, they're rarely in big numbers. They're normally fire teams dropping down with a few numbers. So I'm not sure if that formula of controlling blocks and having that block warfare that Total War normally has going against each other is viable and anymore. I'm also very curious if we're still gonna have this RPG elements of heroes and their skill tree and units and whatnot. Probably because there's a lot of distinct characters within the universe that they could make use of. So I think the Warhammer formula that we saw with the fantasy series will be in some way also in Warhammer 40k. And yes, Golden, 100%, we're gonna see a lot of a DLC policy with from what we've seen over here. We saw the Golden the what do you call the Bad Moons? I think that Orc clan with the yellows that have that crooked moon, and it's the only Orc clan that just uses yellow for their walks for their wars and for their armor, as they're being the biggest, richest Orc clan there is. We saw Astra Militarum. We saw, of course, the Ultramarines. Why? Although in the gameplay we saw a few chapters moving through the thing. Let's see if I can capture that moment with it. Also over here we see that there's star systems or like planets. So I can imagine it will be broken down into a sector, and a sector itself having then, as in like instead of settlements, different planets that you can do. And probably if you control enough or control the whole sector, you're gonna be able to do some diplomacy on top of that sector, similar to the provinces as in Total War. When you rule the whole province, you can put an edict, I think it's called, on top of it. um we see over here some resources and what seems to be money, probably, I guess, that currency over there. um And in a sense, we get naval battles in terms of, it looked like if you have a ship over orbiting a planet, you can call in airstrike from up there. I'm curious if they go the length of creating also proper space battles. What I think could work in terms of space battle would be that's last Star Wars one, Empire at War. I can't remember the title right now. Where you could like tell your unit where to target the other ship and focus on shield, focus on thrusters, focus on weapons, etc. I could see something like that happening. Maybe they get out of their comfort zone and create even its own whole fleet battle thing. Um, that goes into the direction of Gothic Armada, where you actually have to, similar to Empire Total War, we have your ships and you have to decide how fast to go, how many, full sails, half sails, etc. Um, I could see something like that happening as well on a flat surface, space combat, not like a whole 3D space, like in Home Worlds game, for example. But something like that would be amazing if we could fight our space battles as well. Um, I would even go as far as it would be amazing if there are maybe a situation that triggers when, I don't know, two of these ships tackle one another, and there's a boarding happening. That there's like narrow corridors, space Hulk vibe fights going on. I mean, probably I'm speaking out of term here and having too many nerd wishes happening, but oh man, that'd be fantastic. That would be fantastic. It would actually depend on Warhammer 40k timeline on the game if the Eldari and Drukhari are still one faction or not. True, of course. Depends, of course, in which timeline we're playing here. But I think they will go towards probably the end times of 40k that we have also in most of the games present, where you can have we can utilize most of the chapters and most of the sub chapters and whatnot. So who knows? Maybe even or what? Although it's not 40k anymore, right? It's the timeline. I don't know exactly what year the Horse Heresy happening, but imagine that would be mid to end game scenario for the Total War series. Oh man, that would be a surprise if Horse would be one of the playable characters in chapters, and then the Horse Heresy happens, and you want to just set the whole world ablaze. Uh, Similar to the end times in Warhammer Fantasy that's happening on their things. There's definitely some crossovers that they can definitely use and improve. The org models can be reused, for example, and improved on top of that. Oh man. What I hope is, again, lots of gore. They said in the Creative Assembly meeting when they announced the next DLC for Warhammer and also Medieval 3, that gore, blood, viscera will be quite present and will be even more intense with the next engine updates. So really, really intrigued by that. Casual Exterminatus in the background. I won't play another here. Would give you 40k, but only Space Marine is a playable faction game. I mean, they're standouts media persona, right? If you think of Warhammer 40k, most casual people know the Ultra Smurfs. They know the Space Marines. They're the most present eye catcher at the moment with Space Marine 2, with Titus and whatnot. I'm actually surprised that we didn't see Titus' face in the trailer, taking off his helmet or something like that to crossover reference, blah blah blah. And I'm happy that we didn't see Tyranids so far. Maybe that's an end game thing, the Hive coming into the sector. I'm also curious where this plays in terms of like landscape. Maybe some of the super Warhammer 40k nerds are familiar with some of the planet names over here. Draxis, Larstile Tertius, Quintus, Fortisfera, Larstile Quartus. I don't know. If you know, let us know in the comment down below. Will be interesting to see if we can make out where it is. We'll see Creative Assembly is a lazy company, so they still think graphics is most important. I mean, graphics is, of course, equally important as we move forwards, because we can present greater visual things, and why not? Why not go with it? But I'm agreeing with you. I would love a little bit of more in-depth mechanics as they grow as well, in terms of diplomacy, in terms of what you can do, in terms of, I don't know, tools to your hand to use, instead of just your typical, okay, we're at war, let's clash units against each other until the stronger side wins. Chapter speculations. What do you mean in terms of chapter speculation goals? Like, what kind of chapters we're gonna have available? Grass says Tau would be very cool as a race, as well as I think, except from the Arena DLC, one of the game we nearly never were able to play Tau. Fire Warrior, PlayStation 2. But yeah, I agree. And I think we're gonna get, probably from the poster that we saw from the trailer thumbnails, we can see Astromilit's Harems on top. We can see Space Marine, we can see Orcs, and we can see Eldar that are on that thing. So I think these 4 base faction will be in there. Everything else will either be built atop on top of it, or will be then in some sort of hopefully very fledged out DLC edits that makes it worth to pay your extra 20 to get that DLC in there with faction with unique mechanics, so that no matter what group you play, they all feel unique to their style. And I hope that when it comes to the Space Marines, we don't just get a skin that is different, as in like, okay, I'm just thinking now back on Dawn of War 1, where you can have your army painter, but they're just basically all of the same. I would love if they also have their distinct speciality and in chapter agenda going on, like the Iron Fist being very good in defensive and have some special defensive structures and bonuses to, digging in, entrenching and whatnot, or maybe different Astra Militarum regiments that are better or worse doing things and stuff like that to really feel the diversity, because even if it's the same thing, you can really go in depth and diverse there in just differentiating about the speciality that they're in. I'm biased, of course. I would love some space wolves to see, and I would like to have my space marine ride some wolves into battle and transform into lycanthrope creatures and tear apart the enemies, while grab my drinking horn here and dress up as a Viking and scream into the camera, into the microphone, Fenris shoulder, and drink meat while I viscerate and butcher everything that stands in front of the Empire. The chapters are brief recycle through in the showcase. Yeah, let's have a quick look if I can capture that moments with the chapters. Should be around here when the drop happens. Let's see. Let's go a little bit in the speeds to we have the Ultramarines. I have no clue what this crossed sword is, but it looks like to me that it might give you the opportunity and chance to be creative and make your own thing. Of course, it could be my pleb minds right now that I'm not recognizing some of the chapters over there, but high chances are. Now I can see the exterminatas that you mentioned casually happening in the background. Don't get me wrong, I want Creators Assembly to be very successful with their 2 new games. Me too. Medieval 3, and this is, oh man, screaming. Oh my faint heart is bleeding here right now. I'm curious, what kind of faction would you love to see in Warhammer 40k, and why? And of course, I guess since you're recommending that kind of faction, it is your favorites faction to go with. And yeah, definitely make sure that you are part of the channel, because Total War Warhammer 40k will become a big part of it. And when it drops, probably for a long period of time, the main game on the channel that's going to be played, because I'm a huge Warhammer 40k fan and nerd. Raptors, because Raptors. I mean, I would like to see some Night Lords over here. Did you get my drift?